So as Carolyn said, I grew up in Racine, and she was driving me 4 hours every Thursday night. So I'd get home at like 11:30, 12 o'clock every Thursday night. And I had just graduated from high school a little bit before that. I was like 18, 19, whatever I was. And I was coming to this class in Madison, and I'm like, wow, I love this worship. It's so crazy. People actually move. I'm not used to this. And now I flail all over the place. It's awesome. But I was coming, and I heard about this mission base that they were going to be starting in Ghana, Africa. See, what had happened was there was a man from Ghana who came to Madison. He went to the UW. He was a student there for pharmaceuticals, and he said, hey, God, it's my prayer that I want to find a church who will partner with me and go back and help my people. I want to be able to bring your kingdom in fullness. So he came to Global Presence, praise the Lord, and he presented his dream to Steve, and as he was hearing Steve share, he said, wow, yes, our hearts are like all in this, like let's do it. And Steve said, yeah, let's go to Ghana. So he took a team to Ghana, and as protocol would have it, before you can do ministry in a village there, you need to sit before the chiefs, and you need to present, this is the purpose of my mission, this is what our team hopes to do. So they're sitting before the chiefs and the elders, Steve's first time to Ghana, and the chief was actually sick. Actually, several of the chiefs at different points have had miracles. It's awesome. Steve prays for the man. He gets completely healed on the spot by the power of God. And he said, this is amazing. I want this to continue in my community. How can I get you guys to stay? Like, do you want land? I can give you land. And Steve's like, well, actually, yes. The Lord showed me a picture as I was flying over here. He showed me a picture of 50 acres of land and 3 buildings on it. And he had drawn it out on the airplane napkin, and he just showed it to the chief, and he said, yeah, actually, this is what God showed me. And the chief looked at it in disbelief. He said, we have this land. It's the old abandoned Catholic mission, and less than a year later, the chief deeded over 50 acres of land to Global Presence. We have since renovated the first building, the Prayer and Worship Center, because everything comes out of the presence of God. And then true religion is this, to care for widows and orphans in their time of distress. We have opened up an amazing children's home in Ghana. And it's so beautiful. These kids coming in, they had been under so much rejection and abandonment because they had been abandoned and rejected. And they came in and they encountered that there is a God who loves them and sees them and knows them. So I was hearing about this dream, this dream for Ghana. And this was before the Hope Home, the children's home, was actually opened. I'm like, wait a minute. Kids, you guys are going to be raising kids in worship in the nations, like everything that the Lord has been speaking to. Can I do this? And I didn't even have to volunteer. Like, just my spiritual mamas and papas said, yes, she's made to go. So I came home one night after this class, 11:30, it was probably midnight by that time, and I walked into my parents' bedroom and I said, hey, Mom and Dad, I'm going to Ghana. Good night. And I left. And we talked in the morning, and it was just so neat how the Lord, and it happened. My parents have learned that, hey, wow, she really does hear from God. And they have been the best support. They have been so amazing. They're like, yes, this is what my daughter's called to. It hasn't always been easy for all of us, because really, it's a big thing to leave everything you know. It is. Who in here, because a bunch of you have done missions work, who in here has ever taken a bucket bath? Okay, yes. Yeah, I'm not alone. A bucket bath. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's really not. You fill up a bucket of water and you get yourself clean with it, right? Okay, but that's all of the water that is going to be touching your body. I like to stand in the shower and it's not the worst thing in the world, but after a while it's just like, what does warm water on my skin feel like? What is it like to be immersed in water? What's a pool? Oh, I see the dirty river, but, you don't. I think I went in the river once, but it's fine. Anyway, but, it is a real thing. It is a real sacrifice. But then what you discover in the midst of being stripped away of everything that you once knew, of everything that you held dear, of relationships, because I had graduated from high school just a little bit before that, didn't go to college, and I had moved to Madison and then went to Ghana. So I essentially lost all my friends. I didn't really, that's what I thought had happened. Cassie can testify to this. I was crying like, I have no friends. And she's like, yes, you do. But it was great because in the stripping away of everything that I had known, I got to see the beauty of Jesus. I got to see what Jesus looks like in an African culture. I got to see what it's like when all of these kids are just clapping and dancing and you can't get them to stop. It's like, okay, I'm getting kind of tired. Can we go to bed? And they're like, more. And they just keep praising Jesus. It's so amazing. And then you get to, this is so cool, you guys. Okay, so abandonment, rejection, like that does stuff to our physical bodies, our emotional bodies, everything, okay? So you'll find kids who have been in at-risk situations that they have not properly developed physically. You'll see a lot of kids who their growth is stunted, their emotional capacity is not what it should be. Their mental development and how they do in school is not good at all. And I've told this before, but there was a little girl who came in. She was about 8 years old, about this tall. Backtrack a second. There was a boy who was this tall who was like 8 years old when he came in, and I thought he was 4. Like, really, I thought he was 4, but he is doing so amazing now. He's the littlest sweetheart. He's so cool. Anyway, now back to the girl who is 8, but she emotionally was at the level of a 3-year-old. So the smallest little thing, and she would throw herself on the ground screaming. And I'm like, hey, who hit her? Like, what's going on, guys? And they're like, no, we didn't do anything. I'm like, no, somebody had to have done something because she's wigging out. And I saw, no, actually, it just was the broken places in her life that, like, she couldn't cope. If she was being corrected, she would laugh. If she actually was starting to have a good time with the girls around her, she would begin to scream. She just couldn't handle it. Like, oh man, the girls were playing really nice, and all of a sudden she's screaming. But it was so neat because as we just continued to love her and to say, hey, God sees you. Hey, it's okay. God loves you. God is for you. And we would like teach her, hey, you know what? What that kid did was wrong. Can you say, I forgive you? Hey, what you did was wrong. Can you say, I'm sorry? And she was the first little girl to learn how to forgive in our Hope Home. We had almost 30 kids, and that was a big deal because this culture is not all about forgiveness. So learning to let go, oh man, we saw the greatest healing in their lives. And she began to be a leader. She's so cool. She's still so loud and awesome, and it's like when she walks in the room, but she actually is thriving in school now. She's thriving in the Hope Home, and if she wasn't one of the littlest, she would be leading the whole Hope Home. It's crazy. She's just so amazing. And the Lord has just healed her heart so much, and there are countless stories like that. We have almost 30 kids, and just the transformation. I look at pictures from when we first brought them in, and it takes me a second. I'm like, that's that child? Like, oh man, Pearl, like I didn't even recognize her at first, but she's just so amazing. Like now it's like, wow, Lord, you've really done an amazing work in her life. So yeah, in the midst of that, I have to shower with a bucket, but Jesus is transforming lives. And it's like no comparison, really? We sing this song like, I am in love with you, Jesus. There's no cost, there's no loss. Because even though there is a cost, it really isn't loss. Compared to Jesus, it's worth it. So then it's not even a sacrifice. Yes, it's a sacrifice, but then it's not. It's not a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice. Like, Jesus, I'll do anything. I'll lay on the dirt floor. I don't care because you're so glorious. You're so worth it. You're transforming hearts. You're so good. Now, as Carolyn was sharing about, we're in this time of intensity where it's like, I don't know about you. Last week, I'm not generally a very fearful person. But last week, as I was just like working through stuff, I was like, all this intimidation was just like in my life. And I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not good at this. I'm like, I don't even talk like that. Like, Lord, you're good. Help take me through this. But it was really intense. And like, all I could see was my weakness. And the Lord he just had to keep speaking to me like, hey, I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. And praise Jesus, I'm still here standing today. It's amazing. We make it. But there was a time in Ghana when, you're dealing with the clash of cultures. You're like, we're Americans, right? But we don't want to dishonor your culture. But then there are things in your culture that just aren't of the kingdom. So like lies, manipulation, deception, like that's not okay. We love the way that you worship. We love the way that you express yourself. Like we love that. But like, so it's this constant battle between like, okay, this is good, this isn't, like, here's how we bring it. No, we don't do it this way. And it's just, it gets to be a whole lot, when you're going in there and, you're one or two Americans in the midst of all these amazing Ghanaians, but it's just like they just don't get it yet. So I struggled. I'm going to be real with you. I struggled a whole lot. Like, it was really good, but I struggled. And there were times when I'm like, I don't know if I can keep doing this, but then in my heart of hearts, I really didn't want to quit. But there was a time I was having a super hard time with the kids. Like, they were they're amazing. They are, but that night was not very easy. And finally got them into bed, and I felt like such a failure, like legit, like, God, am I even being a good mom? Like, my hope is that these kids will look at me and they'll see some picture of who you are. My hope is that, like, they'll see that God is unconditional in love, that he's glorious, that he can see past all of our weakness. But God, like, I am failing now. Am I even being a good mom? And in that moment, God spoke to me and he said, why do you ask me about what is good? Wait, what are you talking about? And I recognized it because that's what Jesus said to a young man who came to him in the Bible. And he said, good teacher, what good thing must I do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus said, why do you ask me about what is good? No one is good except God alone. And when the Lord asked me, why do you ask me about what is good? I'm like, wait, I know that. Wait, I don't have to be the good one. You are the good one. And he said, Renee, all that matters is you are mine. You are mine. And in that moment, I realized, like, I don't care if I'm being a good mom. Like, I'm not going to try and be a bad mom, but it's okay because I don't have to have it all together. I can just be his. I can just be like, yes, I belong to God and I'm going to love to the best of my ability, but I'm not just going to pour out from myself. I'm going to pour out from what God has given me. And this is something that I wrote actually 2 years ago in Ghana. It was when I was missing everything. I was missing chocolate. I was missing my family. I was missing my friends. I was feeling like a failure because, like, when confronted with conflict, I would, like, yell instead of, like, work through things. And it was just, and I felt worthless in that moment. It was really hard, you guys. And I cried out to God because, like, I want to be beautiful. I want to be valued. I want to stand in this place. Like, there's a longing within us for all that God is. He's amazing. And when we don't measure up to that, it gets really discouraging. And I'm just like, God, will you speak to me? And I wrote this, so I'm just going to read this. This is called The Unseen Painting. Beauty. What is it? Colors? Sounds? Is it character? Design? That which is other than? Why, when I'm alone, do I wonder if my beauty even matters? I love beautiful things. I love scapes of color and being immersed in sound. I like the simple grace of saying no to that which tries to tarnish and degrade. I love quiet strength and confident authority. And yet, in this moment, I'm surrounded by my weaknesses, overwhelmed by what I have not yet overcome. I want to be, or I believe I must be, this amazing young woman who inspires everyone she comes in contact with to fall deeply in love with Jesus because they see my life. I really want to be seen. And not only seen, I want to be considered valuable, worthy. What's the point of a painting that is unseen? Preeminently, the purpose of a work of art is the pleasure of the Creator. He derives delight from putting what is within him into movement on a canvas. Colors, shapes, design, emotion, all from his inner being. Through his mind and by his hand, suddenly the invisible becomes visible. Visible. Is there not value in being seen by others? The depths within the Creator, displayed in the painting, call to the depths within the seers if they allow themselves to see and feel. The Creator himself does not control the response of the seers, yet he will find that the more vulnerable his work is, and if it is upheld by the strength of technique and sails on the wind of natural gifting and risk, his work will call to many, and some will answer. But yet those other seers do not determine the worth of the work of art. For what if there is no one else to behold it? What if you're alone in Africa and you feel like nobody sees you? Does that mean the work of art is worthless? What of the painting itself? What had once previously been segregated colors of paint substance in tubes and a canvas blankly stretched across wood has now become a brilliant composition. It is a vibrant array of emotion. It was touched. It was formed. The paint taken from the palette and stroked onto the void is now given new identity. It is no longer defined by a tube, very possibly not even identified by the color itself anymore. It is now given purpose as it holds its place on the canvas. The canvas, fashioned to bear the image of the Creator. I thought I was a painting, or maybe I was creating a painting with my life. My focus was to be seen, to pull the invisible out of me, these emotions, feelings, winds, passions, thoughts, and words, to pull them out and show the world that I carry something of worth. But now I see that I'm a canvas, but much more than a canvas. I am pure and white, intricately woven fabric stretched across the wooden frame and fastened securely by spikes driven into the wood. My purpose is to hold the inspiration of the Creator, to become a unique display of Him. His tools, my life situations. His mediums, qualities of essence available to me. The design, those are my actions and my words, my relationships and responses, my pain and passion, beauty revealed and intimacy realized. When I yield myself to you, Lord, there becomes a diminishing of the difference between your nature and my own. What started as a quest to be seen has divulged my longing of being known, to be made one with you, until all that is seen of me is your hand, your passions and desires, your vast earth-shaking emotions, your goodness, you in the beauty of me, one in perfect harmony. He dips his brush into his attributes, and as he strokes the canvas, they become my own. The very fact I was created from within the nature of the Creator means I am known, first by Him, and then by all who will see. In that, all striving melts. In that, all weakness doesn't matter. In that, every accomplishment, it doesn't matter. Everything that I had once gained is now nothing. It's rubbish. It's garbage compared to the surpassing greatness of knowing Jesus. He's the perfect one. He's the all-powerful one. There was a woman in the Bible. She's amazing. You know, she gets a bad rap sometimes, but then, Jesus redeems her, and it's so awesome. But she came to Jesus. Actually, she came to a well. She was just thirsty. She came to a well, and she was going to draw some water. But what we know from her is that she was actually an outcast among her people, okay? So she had been in adulterous relationships. She had married several times, and she didn't tell Jesus that. He just knew it. It was awesome. But she came looking for water, and what she found was a man who saw her for who she was. So she came, she was going to get water, and Jesus said, hey, would you give me some water? And she's like, psst. I don't know why you're asking me for a drink. I don't even know why you're talking to me. One, men and women in that culture didn't converse openly in public. That was just not a culturally appropriate thing to do. Jesus loves to do things that are not culturally appropriate because he brings the kingdom culture, and he decides that he's going to have a conversation with this woman because this is a woman that he was going to die for and he was going to save. So he decides to talk to this woman. He said, hey, would you give me some water? And she said, why do you ask me for a drink? I'm a Samaritan woman, you're a Jew. So there's another thing. Not only was it like a man and a woman talking, it was a Jew approaching a Samaritan. The Samaritans were outcasts. Those were considered a lesser people, which is so not God's heart whatsoever, because the Samaritans were a mixed race between Jews and Gentiles. So therefore, it's like, if you associate with a Samaritan, you are not a true Jew. And if you are not a true Jew, you are not the people of God. All this religious junk that Jesus is like, no. This is a human being who I love so much. So he asks her for water. And as she's speaking with him, her heart is being awakened. And she said, wow, I can see that you are a prophet. I can see that you have the words of God. And I just want to worship the Lord rightly. And you Jews say we should worship there, but our people worship here. Like, what's the truth? How can we really worship God? And Jesus said, hey, go call your husband and come back here. She's like, I have no husband. I am an independent woman. I am very capable. No, that's not what she said. She just said, I have no husband. And he said, yeah, you're right. You don't have a husband. The truth is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you're now with is not your husband. And her heart, you have been having this conversation with me. You know my secret that this whole town has ridiculed me for, and that's why I'm fetching water at noon, because that's clearly the best time of day to fetch water and carry a big bucket on your head is noon when it's hot. But you see me in the midst of that. You talk to me, and there's something about you that is awakening my heart. So she actually runs away. Oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. Okay, so when you see Jesus, you would just want to leave it all behind. She literally leaves her water jar there and then runs off. What she had come for, she's like, that's not actually what I needed. What I needed was to hear this man. I'm not thirsty anymore because I'm filled with what this man said. So she runs and she tells the whole town, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ? Could this be the Christ? And if he is the Christ, I'm super surprised that he's talking to us Samaritans. Wow, he's better than we thought he was going to be. This is so good. This is the one who's going to save us. Could it be? So all the people are like, shh, okay, let's go. So they ran off and they came to Jesus. And this is, one of my favorite parts. So they're hearing Jesus speak and Jesus never got his water, okay? And his disciples had gone to go get food, okay? So, but in that, the whole town comes and he just begins to share with them the words of life. He begins to share with them the goodness of God. And these people are like, whoa. We no longer believe just because of what this woman has said, but now we have seen for ourselves that this man truly is the sent one from God. Okay, and all of this, it isn't about someone else's testimony. We can be encouraged by others, right? The woman went and she's like, hey, this man told me my history and he still loves me. Come on out. But really what happened, the whole town, they said, you know what? Your testimony was great, but now we have seen him for ourselves. Now we know him for ourselves, and we know that this is it. 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 This is Jesus, the Son of God. I get so encouraged when I hear the testimony of others. And no offense, but my favorite testimonies are just when God speaks directly to my heart. And I'm like, God, you are for me. You are for me. And I know that I can trust you in the midst of everything. You are for me. It was so cool. So in my struggling week this week, I had so many things that I had to do that I hadn't gotten done. And there was all of this pressure. And I went to bed and I woke up. And the first thing that happened, I could not think a thought. This is how quickly it happened. Okay? I woke up before my alarm, which never happens. I woke up and the Lord spoke to me. And he said, no one is for you like I am for you. But it was so cool because in his words, it was like eternity. And it was like he said that, but it had so many different meanings to it. And he also said at the same time, because he's God and I don't get it and I don't know how I understood all of this, but he spoke, no one loves you the way that I love you. No one fights for you the way that I fight for you. No one delights in you the way that I delight in you. And it made my heart go, yes, because the reality was I don't need a whole bunch of affirmation from others, but I was getting ready to get up that day and fight for myself and earn back what I had lost. I was like, okay, I can do this. I've got this. I failed, but I'm going to rise again and I'm going to do this. And he said, no one is for you as much as I am for you. Not even you, Renee. You don't even understand how great my love is. That was a great start to the day. Let me tell you guys, when God speaks to you, it's so amazing and his heart unlocks. And I just want to encourage you today, all of that performance, just let it melt. Wow. Everything that not just the students, but all of you of all ages, everything that your parents ever expected of you, that's not your goal. Everything that society tells you, that's not your goal. Is it noble to get a college degree? Yes. Do you have to? No. Should some of you? Probably. But really, if you don't, it's okay. That's not where your worth or your value is. If you get the highest paying job, great, go for it. And support all of us missionaries. Woo! We need that. We need that entrepreneurship in the kingdom of God. It's so good. So I'm not saying don't do these things, but I just want to tell you, no matter what happens in your life, your value is not higher or lower. God is for you. And he knows you. And this longing that we have to be seen and this longing that we have to be known, I want to tell you that there is someone who sees you, who knows you more than anybody else. More than your friends do, more than you know yourself. And yet he still says, I want him. I want her. There are areas of weakness in your life that you have not yet seen. You have struggles that you have not yet seen. God sees it, and he's still saying, I want you. He's still saying, I chose you to be mine. You're mine. You're mine. You're mine. Don't ask me about what is good. I am good. You are mine. I am good, and you are mine. I want to invite Rebecca to come up and play a little bit. And Father, I ask that this revelation would go so deep in our hearts that we're wrecked for all of eternity. God, that on the good days and on the bad days, it doesn't really matter because you are constant and you are with us. Father, I ask right now that you would open up our ears to hear your voice. That you would open up our hearts to receive a love that we've never known before. That you would open our eyes to see your beauty and your glory and to realize that you are giving it for us. God is so amazing. By his word, the heavens and the earth were created. With one breath, he gave life to all of humanity. Nothing can faze him. At his name, nations tremble. The earth trembles. He's so powerful. He's so glorious. And yet in the midst of all of his greatness, he says, I want them. I want them. These are my glory. These are my most precious of all creation. The mountains are great. The oceans, the moon, it's all great. But my desire is for my people because I made them to bear my image. I made them to be a unique representation of me. They're mine. They're mine. They're mine and nothing else matters.